summer just start. Boy, the time is so hot and the wind is so fierce. Pure hot here, and by all predictions, it's going to get even hotter. Whew. Anyhow, welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Today we're going to be looking at the challenge of climate change and the mitigating measures being applied. We're also going to be looking at the work of the meteorologist in predicting the weather. But before all of that, I'm going to find a much cooler place so we can cool off. See you after the news.
Clean, beautiful beaches and oceans have always been an important part of life. We can make a contribution whether we live on the shoreline or miles away.
Good day, I'm Carleen Brown and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, June 25. Government is contemplating legislation to help address the illegal importation of banned supplements. Minister with responsibility for sport, Natalie Nita Headley, made the disclosure on Tuesday during her sectoral presentation to Parliament. In the meantime, coaches and sports administrators were warned that they would be culpable if they provide banned substances to junior athletes.
I must take this opportunity to once again encourage our athletes, juniors and seniors, to avoid adopting this trend of reliance on supplements and to focus instead on building a diet based on good nutrition and healthy practices, bearing in mind that the giving of one's best is always good enough.
The minister added that the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, would continue to sensitize stakeholders on the doping control process and the prohibited list of substances by the World Anti-Doping Commission. A partnership has also been established with the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport.
To have JADCO's anti-doping program meet the full requirements of the 2015 World Anti-Doping Code and the mandatory international standards by January 1st, 2015. And to have JADCO successfully address the recommendations outlined in the WADA's November 2013 report.
Meanwhile, the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission has taken a number of measures to increase its drug testing program. This follows the appointment of a new board to the agency in January 2014.
Since this year, JADCO has increased the number of tests. 203 tests have been administered so far, 69 out of competition and 134 in competition.
JADCO also increased its staff complement and reviewed the Anti-Doping in Sports Act. In addition, government will be rolling out the Athletes Insurance Plan in this fiscal year.
Cabinet has endorsed the plan. Additionally, the development of the procurement document for the entity which will execute the Jamaica Athletes Insurance Plan is on the way.
The Jamaica Athletes Insurance Plan will provide comprehensive medical insurance to about 1,500 athletes in the first instance. These athletes have to be enrolled in a national sport program of a registered sport association or federation. Government will be expanding the Wigton Wind Farm in Rose Hill, Manchester. Under the third phase of the project, Wigton will construct a 24-megawatt generating plant, which should become operational next year.
The projected output is 63,000 megawatt hours per year, which would reduce national oil consumption by 37,000 barrels and result in yearly savings of approximately 400 million Jamaican dollars.
He added that Rose Hill was among 4 locations identified to produce a total of 212 million kilowatt hours per year.
The combined effect of these 4 sites could reduce national oil consumption by at least 124,000 barrels per year, which would trim close to $1.27 billion off the annual energy bill.
Minister Robinson was speaking at the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica's recent Alternative Energy Expo. The Ministry of Land is on a feverish search for persons who have been allotted land titles in land settlement schemes across the island. During his sectoral presentation recently, Portfolio Minister Robert Pickersgill said despite the efforts, over 8,000 titles were yet to be transferred from the Commissioner of Lands.
It is the fervent wish of this administration to get this most prized asset into the hands of the intended beneficiaries, who will be able to use it as a tool towards wealth creation, as well as community and nation building.
The National Land Agency has placed the names of these allottees on its website, and persons are invited to check the listing or contact the agency for further details. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has expressed deep sadness at the passing of former Member of Parliament James Thompson, affectionately known as Jim T. Mr. Thompson, who served as Member of Parliament for North East Westmoreland from 1972 to 1980, was also the custos of Westmoreland from 1990 to 2001. He also served as Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. In a statement to Parliament Tuesday, the Prime Minister said Mr. Thompson made sterling contribution to the national and political life of the country.
He was always of the view that everything must be done to improve the living and working condition of the Jamaican people. He was not only a man of words, he was also a man of action.
The Prime Minister also expressed condolences to his family, especially his son, Bishop Robert Thompson. James Thompson was 99 years old. And that's it for GIS News Today. I'm Carleen Brown. Thanks for watching.
Dacia, and you're watching Jamaica Magazine. Be a change maker to someone today.
I found the right place to cool off after being scorched by the sun earlier. And trust me, the AC turned up. Obviously, Jamaica is not immune to the effects of climate change, and industries such as agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and forestry, crucial to both external and internal trade, are dependent on stable weather conditions. Through the Climate Change Policy Framework and Action Plan, the government is implementing a number of adaptation programs.
Extreme heat, extreme cold. Weather conditions around the globe have been going from one end of the scale to the next. In the winter of 2013, temperatures dipped to record levels in North America, Europe, and Asia. It's forcing countries everywhere to stop and take stock, to seriously re-examine the issue of climate change. Thus, the government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change, has embarked on a series of public consultations on the draft Green Paper for the Climate Change Policy Framework and Action Plan. The first of these consultations with residents of St. Mary, St. Anne and Portland. The ministry has stepped up its public education on climate change. The first step, discussions with members of the public to get feedback on the Climate Change Policy Framework and Action Plan, which was approved by Parliament in November 2013. The discussion began with a simple definition of climate change.
Climate change involves distinct changes in measures of climate, lasting for long periods of time, resulting from human activity. So it's not just variation that would be normal, but these are long-term changes, almost permanent changes in the weather over time.
We need to get the message out. And although it is currently very popular, the whole education about climate change is somewhat behind, because it's with us and it's all around us. Longer droughts, heavier rains, more severe droughts, varying extremes.
And these extremes can cost the country millions. Severe droughts, heavier rains, and intense storms spell disaster. Like Hurricane Ivan in 2004, which cost Jamaica $36.9 billion and wiped out 8% of the country's gross domestic product that year. So government crafted a climate change policy framework and action plan to ensure people understand the importance of climate change mitigation and include mitigation in every aspect of planning across all sectors of society. The policy also supports institutions that will do climate change research and inform the rest of the country. These policy goals were explained to about 120 residents who turned up at the St. Mary Parish Church to hear more about the policy and give their opinions. Local climate change experts made the link between climate change phenomena and the day-to-day experiences of most Jamaicans.
The fact is that temperature is rising, and according to the scientists, at a rate of 0.1 degree every decade. So every 10 years, the temperature goes up by 1/10 of a degree. Anybody experiencing temperature increases? Have you noticed that the nights are getting warmer? We're having more warm nights, more warm days, and fewer nights that are very cold. Have you been experiencing that? That's a part of the reality of climate change.
In fact, in less than 10 years, global experts say Kingston will experience significant changes due to climate change. With the aid of charts, the ministry's principal director for the Climate Change Division showed residents the levels of temperature change to expect.
Different places will be affected differently. For example, in the western section of the island, the section number 2, 3, 8, and 9, those sections, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, they will significantly be affected.
But while some damage has already been done, residents were told how government was working to slow or cushion the effects of climate change.
Our mitigation measures, and these are measures that we take to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and also measures that we take to remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere.
And on the other hand, adaptation measures are used to address the generally accepted inevitable impacts of climate change on the natural and built environment. Practical examples include rainwater harvesting to deal with the effects of drought, raising houses and other buildings to deal with the damaging effects of flooding, and more. These are measures now being used in the development orders for St. Anne and Portland, where local authorities will identify sites for new urban settlements that will lessen their vulnerability to natural hazards, outlawing practices such as building in disaster-prone zones. In the meantime, residents were advised of some basic environmental no-nos.
We have a tendency in this country to burn everything we see inside. All the garbage you collect, you burn. The trees you cut down, you burn. This burning releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and that affects the climate, that affects the environment.
And truly, it was an interactive session with residents voicing concern about environmental issues.
We need to be a part of the process. So I'm recommending that you look at not just this mass meeting, but at the parish level, at the community level, where the document can be looked at that level. So we get it beforehand, so we could have gone through it, made some notes, made some comments.
Policy framework has been circulated for some time now. It is in parish libraries across Jamaica. It is available electronically on the website of our ministry. The document is with parish councils, the National Association of Parish Development Committees, and through the Best Communities Competition, that network, we're getting it out. So we will do our best effort.
I would like to say that I think that the initiative taken by the government is a very good one, because climate change is real and its effects are real, and it affects all of us, whether directly or indirectly. I think that the media outlets should play a more prominent role in helping to disseminate information to the public. And I think that they should try to convey the message like in layman's terms more, because a lot of people may not understand the big words and the terms that you may use. So I feel that you should do that more.
A point duly noted and welcomed by Minister of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change Robert Pickersgill, who promised to simplify the issues. Still, the residents felt good about the discussions.
Very informative.
I believe this is a good initiative by the government in combating climate change in Jamaica. This is a growing concern in our country and will affect our children to come.
I would just like to applaud the chairman and whoever is here today who have been informing us about climate change, as some people are not aware of some of the things discussed about climate change.
In the words of Minister Pickersgill, with climate change, we must change. For GIS News, I'm Tamara McHale.
Many of us are still experiencing water lockoffs as a result of persisting drought conditions. Climate change threatens water availability, access, and even quality. Our farmers, challenged primarily by the unavailability of this invaluable resource, have devised innovative means to ensure that the nation's produce is well watered. Learn more right now.
We get most of our annual rainfall during the May to June and October to November months. Periods when water is in abundance. But at other times, agriculture faces seasonal but extensive drought.
It's terrible when you have drought, man. It's terrible.
Farmers like Mr. Campbell, who know the horror of drought, reach for solutions. And a good one is to store excess water from the rainy months for the dry season. Harvesting water requires some investment. These include putting in catchment tanks or ponds.
Right here we have a typical pond that is used to harness rainwater. It is dug using a backhoe or other machinery, and it is then lined with this plastic material that is called a pond liner, which then keeps the water in place and it holds it there until you're ready to use it for your irrigation purposes or whatever other purpose you may need.
In this model, rainwater collected from the roof of this greenhouse using a gutter is emptied into the pond, then pumped into an elevated tank, from where gravity feeds it to the plants in the greenhouse. Water harvesting for this South Manchester farmer is quite different.
It's like how we construct a little babbit here now. That catch me water go down in the tank. When the dry time, you have a lot of problem with the water system. So you have to construct the tank, that you have the water we can store it. That when the drought time come, you have the water. When the rainy season come, you full back up, you catch water.
Tyrone, who farms in a hilly area, collects the rainfall from the roof of his house into a tank built of stone and concrete. He then pipes the water into his field, where he irrigates using the drip system.
With a tank, you have limited water. So the drip system doesn't use the water all that hard. It doesn't distribute the water to the plant at a heavy rate. So using the drip in our area is one of the best methods, because it uses less water, but it's very effective. Based on the amount of water inside the tank, I can use gravity feed. But whenever it goes down lower, I use a pump system. But I have various means that I use. I can use the air tank, that you also use gravity from that as well. So I use both systems depending on the depth or the height of the water.
Agricultural experts will tell you the size of the water harvester you choose to put in will depend on your preference and budget. In the end, you'd surely be saving on the cost of water and meet the important objective of improved production by reducing the impact of drought.
There are times that you don't definitely have to use water, because your nursery will be ready during the rain time, so you plant during that time. So you always try to have your things set up that time that you can have your nursery ready for the rainfall and all of that.
The dry mulching technique has been proved effective in managing drought risks. It's a kind of farming that helps retain soil water in the ground.
What you do, like after mowing out your crop and all of that, like for instance this sweet pepper now, after mowing it, you'll cut the grass. During the whole planting phase, you'll cut the grass and allow it to dry. After mowing, you'll go through and you'll pat down the land. That helps to hold the moisture inside of the land. And for me, I can say it works.
Farmers who plant crops with higher levels of tolerance to heat are better able to deal with heat-related constraints during drought. Research and breeding of drought-tolerant crops has therefore been an area of focus in the Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers being provided with drought-tolerant crops are able to build a resilient system that gives enhanced crop yields under high temperatures. This is where we have to leave you for now. Remember, disasters do happen. Be prepared. Until next time, take care.
Prevent overfishing. Give our marine resources room to replenish. Protect valuable marine species from extinction. Fish sanctuaries have been created to do just that. These designated protected areas for fish and other marine life help to breed, grow, and maintain a healthy population. No one is allowed in a fish sanctuary. It is illegal. Offenders will be arrested and their fishing equipment and catch confiscated. Allowing our marine and seafood population to grow means more catch later and food security for all.
The Atlantic hurricane season began the first of this month and continues until November 30. But do you know how climate change impacts hurricanes? Scientific research indicates that while there might be a decrease in the overall number of storms, climate change will result in more intense hurricanes and tropical storms, lasting longer, unleashing stronger winds, and causing more damage to coastal ecosystems and communities. Hurricane Sandy of 2012 is a prime example. A Category 3 storm at its peak, it became the largest Atlantic hurricane on record, with winds spanning 1,100 miles. Scientists point to higher ocean temperatures as the main culprit, since hurricanes and tropical storms get their energy from warm water. As sea surface temperatures rise, developing storms will contain more energy. At the same time, other factors such as rising sea levels, disappearing wetlands, and increased coastal development threaten to intensify the damage caused by hurricanes and tropical storms. So, do not ignore hurricane warnings when issued. Complete storm preparations, including having an emergency kit on hand. Immediately leave a threatened area if directed by officials.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
Extreme weather events such as deadly heat waves, devastating floods, and drought have prompted researchers to explore how climate change fuels these conditions. In the next feature, we review the art of weather forecasting and how meteorologists are using the available technology to forewarn about changes in weather and climatic conditions.
Of course, all eyes are on Hurricane Ivan at this time, where we see that we are on the outer fringe of the system. Some of the bands are spilling some showers over the Jamaica area. Just a warning that this thing is actually coming across the area.
A television broadcast of national importance. A critical prediction that possibly saved lives and property. A prediction that came at the end of a process that began with some pretty sophisticated technology.
Weather forecasting is trying to determine the changes in the atmosphere.
Several methods are applied to gather weather data, from simple observation.
It's critical to assess the clouds because the cloud is one of the most important elements of determining a forecast.
To the use of satellites, radars, buoys, and weather aircraft. Forecasters from around the world share information generated by advanced computer software and remote sensing equipment, such as this automatic weather station. Working together, data is synchronized or matched, making it possible to predict the weather from virtually anywhere in the world. Weather collecting devices like buoys, which are equipped with special sensors and networked to computer software, are strategically placed and anchored along the seas or left to drift in response to ocean currents and winds. These networks of buoys provide forecasters with all the updates on marine measurements related to wind conditions, barometric pressure, air and sea surface temperatures, as well as wave data. The Doppler radar is another useful tool. Radar stands for radio detection and ranging, and it works based on a series of principles named for Austrian physicist Johann Christian Doppler. This sophisticated instrument allows forecasters to monitor the speed and direction of severe weather systems. Data from all sources are fed to central points for analysis and comparison, and are shared all over the world.
In doing that, we are able to produce what we call a synoptic chart. In producing this chart, it gives us a picture of what is happening across Jamaica and the region. Region here meaning the Caribbean area. After we do that, then we also look at what we call weather prediction models. These models enable us to determine what is going to happen in the future. What we do with the model is that we make an analysis of the model and we make a comparison between the model forecast and what we have done on the synoptic chart.
At this stage, a determination can be made as to what will happen over the next 12 to 24 hours with an outlook for up to 5 days.
In looking at the information, then you determine what the features are and what the influence of these features would be across Jamaica, which would indicate if the day is going to be cloudy, if it's going to be fair, or we expect showers, thunderstorm, or a very windy day.
From the more urgent situations, such as an approaching hurricane, to the less crucial, like where to go for a sunny vacation, news on the weather is always useful. And very important for fishermen and others who must navigate the seas for a living.
We also issue marine products, so persons who are going out to sea would know what the conditions will be across the seas. We have aviation products that are issued specifically to aviation users that would enable them to make a safe flight.
This is a live feed from the runway. So all the information that is displayed here is what's happening currently on the runway, and this is what is critical to all the airlines.
Information on climatic conditions is also provided to farmers and persons in construction, as well as those doing research on the environment. So the next time you see this,
some scattered shower activity over some coastal areas on the northern side of the island.
Remember, weather prediction isn't a guessing game. It's a scientific process involving sophisticated technology, providing useful information for industry, for research, for disaster management, and for life.
All residents immediately evacuate the area.
Continue to stay in touch by visiting our Facebook page, Twitter, or website for additional programs and information. I'm Adrian Atkinson. On behalf of the entire production team, stay alert and be proactive during this hurricane season. Have a great day.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.